Good day, everyone, especially to you, Sir Anthony Gamali. Today, I will discuss my chosen report for the subject CLFM. My chosen topic is Filipino nationalism. But first, I will introduce myself. My name is Erwin Virola Saras, base Cream 2. So, Filipino nationalism. Filipino nationalism started in the Philippines in the 1800s with an upsurge of patriotic feelings and nationalistic ideals resulting from more than 2 decades of Spanish rule. This served as the backbone of the continues to this day. The first the first nationalist revolution in Asia, the Philippine Revolution of 1896. These nationalistic feelings have resulted to a comprehensive campaign in the Philippines for political and social economic liberty. So let's tackle about the background of Filipino nationalism. So the Philippines had been split into various principalities known as barangays rather. In the years before the 11th century, a name originating from Malayan ships called balangays. Datus Raha or sultans governed these tiny political units. In 1565, when Spanish explorer Miguel Lopez de Legazpi arrived from the Mexico and established the first European colonies in Cebu, European colonization started in earnest. So the barangay term came from known as barangays or balangays. Starting with only 5 ships and 500 men accompanied by Augustinian monks and further strengthened by 200 soldiers in 1567. He was able to repel competing Portuguese colonizers and lay the foundation for the Spanish colonization of archipelago. The Spanish occupied the kingdoms of Maynila and Tondo in 1571 and founded Manila as the capital of the Spanish East Indies. This Spanish colonization united the archipelago of the Philippines into a political unit. So let's move on to the beginning of the Filipino nationalism. Originally, the word Filipino referred to the Philippines, Spanish Criollos. The Spanish leader described the natives as Indians during their 333 years rule over the Philippines. The Spaniards born in the Philippines, more known as insulars. Criollos or Quioles were also called Filipinos during the colonial era as well. Spanish-born Spaniards or Philippine-based continental Spaniards were referred to as peninsulars. Those of blended heritage have been called mestizos. Despite of being considered inferior by the peninsulars, the Creoles had enjoyed numerous rules of state and church and composed most of the bureaucracy of government. The feeling of domestic awareness originated from the Creoles who consider themselves as Filipinos. Three significant factors: economy, education, and parish secularization brought it to its emergence. There are three factors lead to Filipino nationalism. The Philippines opening to global of world trade, the increase of the upper class, and the influx of Europe's liberal thoughts were just a few instances of how Philippines became a stable nation. The first manifestation of Philippine nationalism followed in the 1880s and 1890s, with a reform of propaganda movement carried out both in Spain and in the Philippines, with the aim of propagandizing and circumstances of the Philippines in the hopes that social, political, and financial life of the Philippines should be changed by peaceful means. These are the other concepts of Filipino nationalism. So, nationalism is the circular identification and engagement of our people with Filipino nation and domestic community. The Philippines as our country and homeland, it goes beyond our family, clan, tribe, village, city, province, religion, local culture, and religion. First and foremost, it is being pro-Filipino, believing that we belong to one body, mind, soul, and spirit. It's a pride to be a Filipino. Self-respect as a Filipino, pride of pride in our national cultural heritage and manner of life, with their constraints being realized. It involves pride in our heroes, pride in our flags, national anthem, and other symbols of our nationhood, national pride and dignity inspired by the willingness to serve our nation alone and with dedication and to sacrifice for it if necessary with our own lives. It is a tool of change and reform. It aims our moral and spiritual regeneration, our liberation from ignorance, bigotry, intolerance towards those who hold distinct views of themselves, feudalism, parochialism, narrow-mindedness, feudalism, a system in which ranking individuals give land and protection and work and fought for them in exchange. Colonial mentality, the internalized attitude of people's racial or cultural inferiority as a consequence of colonization, bribery and distorted elitism, and elite's advocacy and presence as a dominant component in a shame or community. In other words, a Filipinos, it has powerful national identity, zen, and high-minded intent. Let's discuss about the Filipino national identity based in part on our indigenous values. First is pagsasarili, self-reliance. Second, pakikisama, equitable sharing and partnership, or being friendly. Third, pagkabayani, patriotism, pagkakaisa, national unity, national consensus and discipline, pakikitungo, consideration, pakikipagkapwa tao, human solidarity based first of all and all on developing our nation. Pagkakapantay-pantay, equality and equity. So let's move on to different ways to show Filipino sense of nationalism. So Filipino had already shown their own way of nationalism in the Spanish colonial period. Some fought with their pens and tongues, while others used their arms and weapons authority. Everyone had their own way of showing our country their love and respect. Some even died and were able to get back our country's freedom that we enjoy nowadays. But we have ever noticed how some Filipinos demonstrate their feeling and nationalism nowadays? You could read some thoughts in this portion about how some Filipinos show our nation their nationalism. First is respect the Philippine flag and value Filipino identity. Being Filipino, we should respect our Philippine flag and its purpose. The history and value of this flag are connected to the freedom we have today. Encourage our fellow men to participate and respect our flag and its anthem and even our different symbols. They provide us our identity as Filipinos or citizens of beautiful Republic of the Philippines. Second, be productive. Do not rely on everything and then blame our government, but instead make yourself productive and helpful to the nation. Because some of the Filipinos are blaming the government for any adverse things our nation would strike. True, but there are some corrupt political position holders. But there's not all. The only issue here is that we rely too much on our government then blame them afterwards. We should learn to stand our own feet and be productive and helpful not only for ourselves but also for everyone. Third, beware of issues in our country. We must beware and updated on the significant issues happening in the country. Extend help to the needy fellow men, especially the victims of disaster like typhoons and floods. Naturally, all of us use media in our daily life, even me. We could already demonstrate our nationalism to our nation by using this media. Some of our fellow Filipinos use the authority of their press to extend their assistance to others in the past calamities and hit our nation. They publish some data about how other individuals might be able to assist disaster affected individuals. Fourth is stand proud for every achievement. Filipinos competitive in many ways around the world. They are proud to be Philippines and to be brought the nation for the awards. For their accomplishment, they unite every Filipino. We can be proud Filipinos like Manny Pacquiao, the football team Ascals, the basketball team Gilas Pilipinas, and and lately the Tokyo Olympic event, our representative of lift weightlifting, Heidelin Diaz get the gold medal. Fifth, patronize and support our own products. The Philippines has rich resource to create quality goods and products. The manpower service we provide are also globally competitive. Our economy will improve more if ourselves patronize our own products, which characterize our creativity, resourceful, and industry. In spite of Filipino migration all over the globe, nationalism is also self-evident. Millions Filipinos now support goods and products made by the Philippines. Outside the Philippines, everything is feasible with the emergence of a world economy based information driven by the free trade, market economy, and open capital markets. The Philippine products live up the standard of quality in all modesty. 6. Preserve the Filipino culture. Philippines is rich in various colorful and cultural elements. They are our identity. We are proud and preserve the culture we have for they our treasure. We have to keep them for the future's generation rather. Migrant Filipinos who have practically grown most of their lives overseas almost always return to the Philippines to explore our lovely beaches and the feature attraction, a nation with 7,107 islands offers. Filipino maintain a periodic TFC or the Filipino channel subscription to get in contact with every Filipino. Forget about homesickness while overseas and instill the Filipino values that we see on their television. So 7. Everyone and respect everyone and value our traditions. Filipinos are courteous, respectful. You will acknowledge a Filipino individual everywhere you go because he or she always been respectful of the elders and the others using common but certainly classic the ho, oho, and opo. Even in modern times, many Filipinos show and value their noble norms and traditions. Although Filipinos overseas have held themselves as the peak of their interests. The interest in the prism of their domestic uniqueness with passionate approach to political and social economic liberty. Filipinos may have plurality in terms of divided islands, language, religion, and ethnicity, but they share common country love and vision for the better Philippines. 8. Speak out our own language. Using our own language is manifesting and preserving our national identity. It is our unique means of communicating and interacting with our fellow men. Our language is an important tool to achieve further unity and national development. Number 9. Remember and commemorate our heroes' sacrifice for our country. There were many Filipinos who died for our democracy, freedom, and independence. Some fought for using their pens and tongues, while some used the power of their arms and weapons. Each, each had their own way of showing their love and respect to our country. In today's generation, let us value the treasure our heroes' sacrifices, devotion for our country. The example of hero that fought in using his pens and tongue is Dr. Sersal. Lastly, love your family, our neighbors, and our countrymen. The essence of life for most Filipinos is to create their family and nation a part of their enduring engagement. They may even express their dedication to unpopular choices to burn the advantage of majority. We are strongly committed to our obligations. Filipinos create an all-out effort to work and make private sacrifices around the clock over the weekend hard work. These values, combined with an abundant reservoir of patience, and have been inculcated by our beloved parents to our youthful minds. The bravery of Filipino workers abroad is an ideal evidence of human sacrifice for family, love, and nation. Being away from home and dealing with the problems of life in a nation you knew no one and risking yourself into many foreboding dangers and exemplary, particularly when serving a well-formulated task of sending remittance that in turn would help increase the economy of the nation and make it more financially stable through monetary asset. That's all for my report. Thank you, sir.